In a serene village, hidden among gentle hills and flowers that seemed to yawn at sunrise, lived a girl named Rosie. She was small and gentle, with wavy brown hair that danced in the breeze, eyes as sweet as warm caramel, and an expression that was always serene, as if she were eternally listening to a distant song. Rosie was known by all not only for her sweetness, but also for her magical red hood, a gift from her grandmother, Granny Luma. The red hood was no mere piece of fabric. It had been sewn with moonlight threads and lined with dream rose petals, making it enchanting. It was said that the hood whispered gentle advice when Rosie felt confused and guided her steps with a gentle breeze, as if it had a will of its own. Rosie never felt alone when she wore it. That morning, Rosie woke with a special sparkle in her eyes. The sky was tinged with pale pink and gold, and tiny birds sang sleepy melodies through the windows. The night before, she had received a fragrant letter from her beloved grandmother, Granny Luma, who lived on the other side of the legendary Whispering Woods. The letter was written on paper as soft as cotton and came with tiny petals that danced in the air when touched. In it, Granny Luma said she would prepare dream flower tea and warm cloud bread especially for Rosie, and asked her to come visit that morning. With joy in her heart, Rosie donned her hood, grabbed her little basket of golden twigs lined with star blue linen, and filled it with small gifts: moonflower jam, enchanted honey cookies, and a handkerchief her mother had embroidered with sleeping stars. She knew the journey through the woods was magical, but it still deserved respect. The Whispering Woods was known for being alive, not dangerous, but deeply dreamy. The trees whispered to each other, the flowers opened slowly as if awakening from a long dream, and the paths shifted when they were playful. But there was someone special there, Lupo, a gentle wolf with a bluish-gray coat and large, bright eyes like full moons. He was the guardian of the woods and made sure all who passed through were safe. Instead of howling, Lupo hummed soft songs that only magical animals understood. He carried a lantern hanging from a curved branch that he used as a staff. This lantern shone with starlight, revealing secret paths and calming any agitated creature. No one feared Lupo. On the contrary, many longed to meet him, for he was wise, kind, and always ready to offer guidance with a shy smile. Rosie knew this. Since she was little, she had heard stories about the wolf who watched over the wood's dreams. And though she had never seen him with her own eyes, she hoped to meet him one day. Maybe today. She walked to the entrance of the woods. The branches formed a natural arch, as if the woods were bowing in greeting. The wind blew gently, lifting a lock of her hair and whispering among the leaves. "Welcome, Rosie." She smiled. "See you soon, Mommy," Rosie said softly, waving to the window of her house, or her mother in a flowered apron waved back with a kiss blown to the wind. And so, with light steps and a warm heart, Rosie entered the Whispering Woods. The trees bent gently, the birds followed her first steps, and the mushrooms sparkled like little enchanted lamps on the ground. The woods had awakened, and Rosie's journey had begun. The Whispering Woods seemed more magical than Rosie remembered. With each step, sunlight filtered through the leaves as if falling in the form of liquid gleams, dancing in the air. The ground was covered in velvety moss and tiny flowers that released a sweet, soft scent, as if yawning with contentment. Butterflies with transparent wings flitted slowly, as if floating between thoughts. Rosie walked with light steps, her red hood swaying gently behind her. The golden basket made a soft rocking sound, filled with delights and affection. She knew the path to Granny Luma's well, but today the wood seemed a little different. The paths had shifted, not threateningly, but as if playing hide and seek. She stopped beside a golden-barked tree and frowned slightly. That bend wasn't here yesterday," she murmured. The hood whispered a soft sound like a breath of wind, and Rosie understood. The woods were gently testing her, like a dream wanting to be explored slowly. Suddenly, a soft music filled the air. It was like a lullaby played by flutes made of leaves. Rosie turned, enchanted, and then she saw him. Between two large trees, emerging from the pale blue mist, stood Lupo. He was exactly as they said, a wolf with bluish-gray fur so soft it seemed made of clouds, and huge, serene eyes shining with starlight. Around his neck, he carried a small lantern made of dream crystal, hanging from a branch curved like a staff. His presence didn't inspire fear, but rather a deep peace, as if Rosie had found an old friend she missed, even though she had never met him. "Hello, Rosie," Lupo said in a low, calm voice, as if the words were made of warm wind. Rosie's eyes widened in surprise. "You know my name?" Lupo tilted his head slightly and smiled with his eyes. "The woods whisper many stories, and the stories about you are always sweet." She blushed slightly, but smiled. "I think the path to Grandma's house has changed. I used to know the trail well, but today everything seems different." Lupo nodded. The Whispering Woods sometimes play with the paths, but don't worry. They only do that when they sense someone special is passing by. You brought gifts with a pure heart, Rosie. The woods like that. She looked at the basket and then back at him. "Can you help me find the way?" Lupo smiled kindly. "Of course. But instead of going straight ahead, how about we take a more scenic route? I can show you places few know about. Places where dreams truly sleep." Rosie hesitated for a moment, but the serene gleam in Lupo's eyes reassured her. "Okay, but only if it's not too far. Granny Luma is waiting for me with dream flower tea." "I promise we won't be long," Lupo said. He began walking slowly, and Rosie followed beside him. The lantern on his staff glowed softly, revealing small creatures hidden among the leaves and mushrooms that waved to Rosie like shy fairies. As they walked, Lupo told her stories of the woods, about trees that dreamed of stars, about streams that could sing ancient melodies, and about a flower that only opened when it heard real laughter. Rosie listened to all it, her eyes shining, enchanted. With each step, the feeling that she was getting lost disappeared. On the contrary, she felt she was exactly where she needed to be. And so, Rosie and Lupo continued on toward the sweetest secrets of the forest, while Granny Luma prepared her magic kettle, certain that something very special was about to happen. Rosie and Lupo walked side by side along trails that seemed to have been created just for them. The tree branches parted gently as they passed, as if to let in a very special visitor. Tiny lights floated in the air, not fireflies, but dreamlike particles, dancing like enchanted dust in the light of Lupo's flashlight. "The woods are happy today," Lupo said, his voice as low and soft as a whisper. "They know you came with an open heart." Rosie looked around, enchanted. The leaves, shades of blue, lilac, and gold, rustled softly with every breeze. The ground felt cozy, like a soft carpet of petals and moss. Each step felt like a hug. "It's like walking through a dream," she said, her eyes shining. Lupo gestured with his nose and pointed to a hidden curve among the roots. "Come, I want to show you something few have ever seen." They followed a narrower path, which suddenly opened into a wide, bright clearing. It was the Glade of Sleeping Laughter. In the center of the clearing stood a tree with a wide trunk and golden leaves that swayed by themselves as if someone were hidden among them, chuckling softly. Around the tree, colorful flowers stirred as if dozing after a long day of play. And in the air, a very subtle sound could be heard, a soft echo of children's giggles, like sweet memories floating through time. "What is this place?" Rosie asked in wonder. Lupo sat quietly on the grass, his lantern resting beside him, still emitting a soft glow. "This is where forgotten laughter comes to rest. When a child laughs with great joy and then grows up and forgets, the sound of that laughter comes to sleep here, stored forever." Rosie approached the golden tree. She reached out and touched one of the leaves. A very soft sound escaped, like a distant laugh. She widened her eyes, smiling. "It sounds like the laugh of someone who dreamed a lot. It could even be your own laugh from when you were very little," Lupo said with a sparkle in her eyes. "The forest holds all things sweet and true." Rosie sat under the tree, listening to the smiles of the past echo around her like a lullaby. "It's so beautiful, but it also fills me with a longing I don't even understand." It's the longing for old dreams, but it's also a reminder that we can still laugh like that. We can still keep those laughs alive. Rosie closed her eyes for a moment. Silently, she laughed softly, as if planting a new memory in the enchanted ground. The wind carried the sound carefully, depositing it among the branches of the tree. Lupo looked at her fondly. "Now there's a new laugh sleeping here." Rosie was silent for a moment, feeling part of the woods, as if she were a flower or a sound or a color. But then she remembered her mission. "I still need to get to Granny Luma's house. She's waiting for me with tea and cloud bread." "And we'll get there," Lupa said sweetly. "But haste is not welcome in the Whispering Woods. Here, every step is a little piece of a dream, and every dream deserves to be lived slowly." Rosie nodded. She stood, brushed off her flowery dress, and picked up the basket with care. "Shall we go?" Lupo stood beside her, and his flashlight shone again. And so, leaving the glade of sleeping giggles behind, Rosie continued on, her heart a little fuller, her eyes even brighter, and the certainty that the woods were much more than just a path to Granny Luma's house. It was a place where even memories slept with a smile. The forest now seemed to breathe alongside Rosie. With each step she took beside Lupo, leaves moved gently, flowers bent, and small whispers of wind passed by her ears, as if the forest itself wanted to speak to her. Lupo's lantern cast a soft glow over the path, and Rosie's golden basket swayed peacefully, filled with sweet scents. "Are we close?" Rosie asked, her curious gaze fixed on the paths ahead. "Almost," Lupo replied calmly. "But there is one last stretch, the most special of all. A path that doesn't always appear, but today the forest has decided to show it to you." Rosie raised her eyebrows in admiration. More special than the glade of laughter? Lupo nodded. This path is different. It doesn't hold the past. It reflects the present. Led by the glow of the lantern and the wolf's silent tread, Rosie followed until they reached a passage between two intertwined trees. Between the trunks hung a shimmering blue mist. It was like passing through a portal made of liquid dream. As they passed through, Rosie gasped slightly. The air there was cooler, and the ground, covered in damp moss, reflected the light like tiny mirrors. The path was covered in dew. Large, clear drops rested on mirrored leaves, and in each one, Rosie saw something unexpected, herself, but not just her ordinary reflection. "These are the dew mirrors," Lupo said, his voice as soft as silk. "They show who you are when you are at peace, when you don't have to pretend to be anything other than yourself." Rosie crouched down before a heart-shaped leaf. In the dew, she saw her own face, but it was even more serene, as if in the midst of a deep dream. Around her, small versions of the day's adventures floated, her smiling in the clearing, listening to the trees, laughing with Lupo. "It's beautiful," Rosie murmured, "but also a little scary." Lupo lay down quietly beside her. "Sometimes seeing who we really are can give us butterflies, but it's not the same as being scared. It's just a sign that we're growing." Rosie stood there for a few minutes, watching the reflections. In one of the larger leaves, she saw an image of herself holding Granny Luma's hands, sitting at the table, laughing, surrounded by steaming tea and enchanted cakes. It warmed her heart. "These reflections, are they real?" she asked. "They are sincere possibilities. The forest shows what lives inside you, as if to say, 'See, all this is already yours, even if you don't realize it yet.'" Rosie looked at the reflection again. Then, with a small, genuine smile, she stood up. "Thank you, mirrors. Thank you for showing me. The mist around them began to move slowly, as if the mirrors had heard her thanks. The leaves trembled slightly, and the dew evaporated gently into the air, forming sparkles that rose into the sky like stardust. "The path is clear now," Lupo said, standing. "The woods understand that you saw what you needed to see. Now we can move on." Rosie nodded. That moment would be held dearly in her heart, one of the many treasures the Whispering Woods was offering her. As they left the Dew Mirrors clearing, Rosie looked back one last time. The trees had already returned to their gentle silence, but she knew that place would always exist within her, wherever she was. The scent of tea and cloud bread was already beginning to waft in the distance, as if the forest was signaling, "The time of reunion is coming." And with light feet and a full heart, Rosie continued her journey, closer to herself, closer to Grandma. The sky was beginning to change color. The golden morning light was slowly turning into a rosy glow, as if the entire forest were drifting into a sweet slumber. Sunbeams filtered through the leaves, and the air was filled with a familiar scent: dream-flowered tea and fresh-baked bread. Rosie took a deep breath and smiled. "I think we're close, Lupo." The gentle wolf walked beside her, his starlight glowing softly and pale blue. "Yes, we are. We just need to cross the cloud bridge. It leads straight to Grandmother's garden." Rosie had never heard of a cloud bridge, but in the Whispering Woods, anything seemed possible. Lupo led her through trees that bowed in farewell, as if to say, "Come back soon." Ahead, a field opened up, and soon Rosie saw something extraordinary. A bridge made entirely of soft clouds, suspended in the air like a whitish rainbow, floating between two gentle hills. The clouds seemed firm, but they had the fluffy appearance of cotton candy. Rosie stopped at the edge of the bridge and carefully stretched out her foot. She sunk slightly, but the ground supported her weight softly, like a living cushion. One step, then another, and she was walking on clouds. Lupo followed her silently, watching intently. This bridge appears only when someone walks with true longing. The woods know your heart is full of love for your grandmother. That's why the bridge appeared to you. Rosie looked down. The world below was shrouded in a pink and blue haze. In the distance, she saw small flickering sparks. Perhaps fireflies, or perhaps just passing dreams. As she crossed the bridge's central point, a warm breeze blew, and with it came something even more magical, a song. It was a very soft melody, like a whisper lulled by the wind, and Rosie recognized it immediately. It was an old lullaby her grandmother used to sing when she was still very young. "Sleep, little star up in the morning sky. Your dreams are sweet as mint petals." Rosie stopped in the middle of the bridge and closed her eyes. The melody enveloped her completely. She remembered her grandmother's hands stroking her hair, the scent of dried flowers, and the small cups where they drank imaginary tea together. "She's waiting for me," she said with a shy smile, "and she's singing to me even from afar." Lupo also stopped, looking tenderly at the girl. Granny Luma sings not only with her voice, but with her heart, and the forest listens. Rosie opened her eyes, now bright with emotion. "I want to get to her soon, but at the same time, I wish the path wouldn't end." "Magical paths don't end," Lupo replied wisely. "They just turn into memories. And memories, Rosie, last forever." When they reached the end of the bridge, Rosie saw, amidst the tall vegetation and the scent of lavender, a low gate made of woven branches with tiny stars hanging from it. Behind it, a very familiar little house with round windows, fragrant smoke billowing from the chimney, and flowers planted even on the roof. Everything there seemed to smile. Rosie's heart pounded. "We're here!" Lupo stopped beside the gate and bowed his head slightly. "It was a pleasure walking with you, Rosie, but from now on, this is your moment alone." Rosie looked at the wolf with affection and gratitude. "Thank you for showing me so much. I couldn't have done it alone." "Yes, you did. I only lit the way, but you walked it." Rosie smiled. She touched her red hood with one hand, held her little golden basket tightly with the other, and slowly pushed open the gate. Inside, her grandmother was waiting for her, and the afternoon promised to be the warmest embrace in the world. Rosie pushed open the small gate of woven branches, which creaked softly as if to say, "Welcome." The path to Granny Luma's cottage was lined with flowers that bowed gently as she passed, sleepy daisies, sighing lavender, and tiny dream tulips glowing in pastel hues. Moss and starmint grew on the roof, and golden smoke rose from the chimney in dancing spirals, smelling of dream flower tea and sweet honey bread. The house felt alive, as if breathing in harmony with the woods. Rosie clutched the basket to her chest and approached the round, pale wooden door. Before she could knock, it slowly opened. There she was, Granny Luma. a small, round woman with silver cloud hair tied in a fluffy bun, skin as pale as cotton, and eyes full of sparkle as if holding the entire sky in their gaze. She wore a lavender blue dress embroidered with stars and a cream apron with pockets full of secrets. "My Rosie," she said in the sweetest voice in the world. "Rosie," she replied, running into the embrace. Granny Luma welcomed her with open, firm arms, only as magical grandmothers can. The embrace smelled of fond memories, warm cake, and deep peace. "Did you come all this way through the woods alone?" she asked, leading Rosie inside. "Not so alone. I found Lupo," Rosie said, sitting down at the round table covered with a magical lace tablecloth where cups were already waiting for her. "I made Season's tea," Granny Luma said, pouring it for Rosie. "Every sip carries the flavor of a different season. The first cup is spring." Rosie took a sip. The taste was fresh, sweet, with a faint scent of flowery fields and warm rain. She closed her eyes, smiling. "It's like running barefoot in the garden." "That's right," she replied proudly to Grandma. "And now the second cup." This time the tea was golden and deep. "Autumn?" Rosie guessed. "That's exactly. Lazy afternoon warmth, the scent of fruits and distant laughter." Rosie experienced all 4 seasons one by one. The autumn tea was like a blanket, smelling of dried leaves and sweet pumpkin. The winter tea was soft as a hug by the fireplace, with notes of vanilla and sleepy pine. After the last cup, Rosie leaned back in her chair, feeling filled with light inside. Granny Luma looked at her tenderly. "You know, Rosie, you've grown, not just in your body, but in your eyes. There's a new light in you." Rosie smiled a little shyly. "I feel different too, as if I've heard things I hadn't heard before, as if the forest had spoken to me." "And it did," Grandma said. "The forest whispers to those who listen with their hearts, and you listened." They were silent for a moment. Outside, the sky was turning lilac and peach. The first stars were beginning to appear among the tallest leaves. The forest was also taking its afternoon nap. Rosie rested her chin in her hands and looked out the window. "Will I live here one day too, Grandma?" Granny Luma ran her fingers through her granddaughter's hair. "Maybe, or maybe you'll take the forest with you wherever you go. The trees, the laughter, the mirrors, all of this is part of you now." Rosie closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the warmth of home, of the still warm cup between her fingers, and of her grandmother's safe presence. That night, she would understand that some homes don't just have walls and a roof. Some homes are born within us. After tea, Rosie helped Granny Luma put away the remnants of the enchanted cakes and collect the magical silverware, which floated gently back onto the shelf. The interior of the house was as welcoming as a long embrace. Rounded furniture, books with bright covers that moved discreetly, pillows embroidered with sleepy moons and dozing stars. Time inside seemed to slow down, as if the clock on the wall, made of wood and stardust, decided there was no need to rush. "Do you want to see the attic?" Granny Luma asked, a mischievous glint in her eye. The attic? Rosie had never been up there. When she was younger, the stairs were very steep, and Granny always said that space was reserved for when she was ready. "Today, I think you're ready." Granny said with a smile that embraced her. They climbed the curved staircase together. The wood creaked softly, but not from old age. It was as if the boards were whispering ancient songs. The attic was bathed in soft light that filtered through a small round window in the ceiling, where the sky was already darkening in shades of violet, blue, and silver. Stacked were boxes, old books with gilded titles, and forgotten magic toys stretched lazily as they noticed Rosie's presence. But what caught her attention was a small, white wooden box resting on a stool. It seemed to glow faintly, as if dreaming. "What is this?" Rosie asked, approaching. Granny Luma gently picked up the box and handed it to her granddaughter. "This is the memory box. It only opens to hands that have crossed the woods with an open heart." Rosie held the box, which was as light as a petal. When she touched it, a small golden clasp opened by itself with a delicate click. Inside were small objects that floated slowly, as if in zero gravity. A red ribbon, a dried flower, a small bluish seashell, a golden button engraved with stars, and a sparkling white feather. "These are true souvenirs," Granny Luma explained. "Each one carries a piece of your story. Some you'll recognize, others you'll still live with." Rosie picked up the dried flower. It was a dream flower, just like the one she'd seen on the path. Holding it, she remembered the sound of Lupo's voice telling stories beneath the glade of laughter. The golden button reminded her of Granny's song on Cloud Bridge. The seashell brought to mind the distant sound of a stream, even though she hadn't yet visited it. "And this feather?" Rosie asked, holding the last piece. The feather gleamed at her touch, and in that instant, a soft light entered through the attic window. It was as if a star had breathed its presence into it. "A feather is a gift from the stars," Granny Luma said, looking up at the sky. "It appears in the box when someone begins to understand that the deepest dreams are also paths, that they are not as far away as they seem." Rosie held the feather to her chest, overcome with emotion. "But what do I do with it?" "When you feel the time is right, blow it with intention, and it will show the direction of something yet to come." Rosie sat there, beside her grandmother, the box in her lap. Outside, the stars were shining brighter, and small sounds from the woods echoed through the night. The song of a dream bird, the rustle of leaves, the creak of distant branches. And then, without warning, a gentle breeze blew through the round window. The white feather floated in the air, as if ready. Rosie blew. The feather twirled once, twice, and then flew skyward, disappearing among the first constellations. "Will she come back?" Rosie asked, a little surprised. "She'll wait for you where she's supposed to be. Now the next step is yours." Rosie closed the box, sensing something bigger happening. A calling she didn't yet fully understand, which was beginning to blossom within her like a flower bud waiting for the dawn. Night fell with silence and promise, and Rosie dreamed of stars whispering paths to her. As they walked along the soft, cloud-covered road that led to the clearing, Lena, the little girl in the bright red cape, made of velvet soft fabric and decorated with star-shaped embroidery, and her new friend, the serene wolf, heard only the sound of their own footsteps and the whisper of the night breeze. The sky seemed deeper, with stars twinkling like small, magical lanterns scattered across the infinity. "Lena," the serene wolf said, his voice low and calm, "have you ever heard of midnight roses? The girl shook her head curiously. "No, are they real?" The wolf smiled mysteriously, showing just the tips of his pearly teeth. "They are very real. They grow only under the light of a full spring moon, and they say each petal holds a dream ready to come true." As they continued along the trail, they began to see small golden lights flickering among the leaves. Not fireflies, but delicate magical sparks dancing in the air. As they reached a small hill, Lena saw a secret garden illuminated by a silvery glow. In the center, a perfect circle of blue roses with pink tips seemed to pulse gently, as if breathing. "Wow!" Lena sighed, kneeling to observe closely. "They're so beautiful!" The serene wolf approached, but without touching the flowers. "My grandmother used to say that if you close your eyes and make a wish with kindness in your heart, the midnight roses will listen." Lena closed her eyes. The wind caressed her face, and she inhaled the sweet, fresh scent of the roses. Silently, she made a wish that her grandmother have a peaceful night full of sweet dreams and rest. When she opened her eyes, she noticed that one of the roses had detached itself from its stem, floating through the air until it landed gently in her hands. The petals shone like tiny shards of moonlight. "I think they like you," the wolf said with a genuine smile. "Keep it. It's a rare gift." Lena smiled back, tucking the rose into the inside pocket of her cloak. She felt warm inside, as if she'd received an invisible embrace. They continued on their way with light steps, and the night seemed even more beautiful than before. The soft afternoon light filtered through the golden canopy of the dream forest, creating a carpet of shimmering sparkles on the ground. Leela, in her velvety red hood, sat beside Grandma Aurora, who lounged comfortably in a cloud-cushioned chair, sipping sweet petal tea. The sweet aroma filled the air, while Ollie, the blue teddy bear, dozed in a corner, cuddled in a moon-shaped pillow. Leela was worried. Even though the gentle wolf had helped ward off the windstorm the night before, she knew something still lurked in the forest. Small tree creatures had told her that gusts of icy wind were approaching again, coming from the north. "Grandma, what if the wind is even stronger this time?" Leela asked, her eyes shining with concern. Grandma Aurora smiled, her silver hair reflecting the golden light. "My dear, we have something the wind can't take: friendship and courage. But perhaps we can use a little magical help too." It was then that she opened a secret drawer in the side table and took out a ball of golden wool, which seemed to glow from within. "This is the wool of dreams," she explained. "When we weave with it, we can create invisible bonds that protect those we love." The gentle wolf, who had been listening outside the window, slowly approached. His serene eyes reflected gratitude. "I can help spread this protection throughout the forest," he said in a low, calm voice. The plan was simple and enchanting. Leela would weave small ribbons with the wool of dreams, and the gentle wolf would take them to hang on trees and houses. Each ribbon would spread warmth and serenity, keeping the cold wind from entering. For hours, Leela worked patiently, Grandma Aurora teaching her delicate patterns, while Oli helped wind the threads, although occasionally he'd curl up with her, chuckling softly. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of peach and lilac. When the last ribbon was woven, the gentle wolf carefully placed it in his mouth and with light steps set off on his mission. Watching him disappear into the golden mist, Leela felt her heart warm, not just from the magic, but from the bond of trust that bound them all together on this adventure.
Night fell slowly over the forest of dreams, bringing with it a soft silence. The stars twinkled as if smiling, and the full moon hung in the sky like a silver lantern. Leela sat on Grandma Aurora's porch, wrapped in a warm blanket, watching the gentle wolf return. Small petals still clung to his fur, and a peaceful glow filled his eyes. "All the ribbons are hanging," he said, lying down beside the door. "The forest is protected." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the trees, but instead of the biting chill of before, it was a warm breeze laden with the scent of night flowers. It was as if the storm itself had given up on disturbing this place. Grandma Aurora opened the door, carrying a tray with cloud cakes and vanilla tea. Ollie hurried to the table, his eyes half closed with sleep, but with a satisfied smile. As Leela tasted the tea, she felt a sense of peace so profound, it seemed the whole world was in harmony. That night, everyone gathered on the porch. The gentle wolf rested, Grandma Aurora told old stories, and Ollie dozed in Leela's lap. The clear, bright sky was reflected in the girl's curious eyes. She knew that even if new adventures arose, friendship and mutual care would be her greatest protection. Before going to sleep, Leela tied a final golden ribbon to the porch railing, not out of fear, but as a silent reminder that in the forest of dreams, every heart beat in tune. And so, the night was calm and long, with dreams as sweet as the honey Grandma Aurora kept in transparent jars. The moon remained as guardian, and the stars watched over every serene sigh, while the world outside continued to spin slowly, lulled by the warmth of bonds that would never be broken.